ending tuberculosis is only possible when we diagnose TB early, characterize the nature and in particular the drug sensitivity of each case, and then treat the person with drugs that are most likely to work. Who may be new to some of this material. Let's unpack some of the terms and ideas that the study explored. First of all, upfront expert drug sensitivity testing. What does that mean? That's essentially using state-of-the-art molecular testing for diagnosing TB and at the same time assessing resistance to at least one of the main drugs used to treat the disease. And the expert, as it's called, as a test, is a relatively new diagnostic test that confirms whether a suspected TB case really is TB, and also whether the individual case of TB is likely to respond to the most commonly used drugs. And if a patient is believed to have drug-resistant TB, then it's important to switch their treatment to drugs that their TB is sensitive to, not just for protecting the individual, but also to protect broader public health, as it may increase drug resistance. And this is a critical part of implementing and achieving the WHO NTB strategy. Before the introduction of tests such as Expert, the time delay between detecting TB and understanding that drug sensitivity or resistance was considerable. And one study published in 2014 found that in India, an average TB patients have to wait about 2 months before TB diagnosis is made. And very often people don't find out they have drug resistance until they fail one round of anti-TB therapy or have a recurrence of disease. And the Expert diagnostic test offers the opportunity of conducting both tests at the same time at the point of care. Now, the current study is important for 2 reasons, because it showed 2 important results. One, that when implemented on a large scale in India, the Expert test significantly increased the case notification results, the case notification rates of all bacteriologically confirmed TB cases, and that was by up to around 40%. But it also increased the case detection of rifampicin-resistant TB by over 5-fold compared to conventional drug sensitivity testing, and that's why this result is important. And until a month ago, we didn't really have this kind of robust evidence base, which has obvious implications for the way that TB is treated and characterized in India. Now, for the webinar today, we'll provide you with an opportunity to interact with the study authors, with the lead TB expert and experts from the World Health Organization and the International Union Against TB and Lung Disease to learn about their study findings and ask questions. We've already received some questions from journalists in Myanmar, Pakistan, Nepal, and as far afield as Swaziland. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce Dr. Sarabjit Chadha from the International Union Against TB and Lung Disease, who's going to tell us a bit more about the Indian perspective. And as we just saw from Mario's data, it's one of the countries with a significant MDR burden. Thank you very much, Dr. Chadha.
Thanks, Tim.
Are we hearing Dr. Chadha?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So thanks, and I will quickly take you through why detecting drug-resistant TB at the time of TB diagnosis is important. And thanks, Mario, for the introduction. I will just quickly reiterate that there are almost 500,000 MDR TB cases annually which are detected. And in terms of definitions of MDR and XDR, I think most of the attendees here would be aware. But just to kind of reiterate, MDR TB is resistance to the 2 most important first-line drugs, rifampicin and isoniazid. And when resistance gets amplified to quinolones and second-line injectables, it becomes the extensively drug-resistant TB, and they have really very poor treatment outcomes. Now, what's more important is that out of these 500,000 cases, there are almost 210,000 deaths occurring due to MDR TB. So, just for clarity, I'll take you through what happens in most of the high-burden TB countries in the world. A patient presents with symptoms of TB, and the first-line diagnostic use is smear microscopy with or without X-ray. And drug resistance is usually not tested if the patient has no prior history of TB. And so he's initiated on 6 months of treatment. Good enough, if he has drug-sensitive TB, he gets cured. But if he fails treatment, some of the countries still do not test for drug resistance and is put on a retreatment regimen for another 8 months. He fails treatment again and then finally gets tested for drug resistance. And so you see from this, the diagnosis of drug resistant TB is made. And most of the patients will not survive this delay and inappropriate treatment. And especially, if there are comorbidities like immunosuppression, HIV, diabetes, and so on. And this suffering and maybe death can be avoided if testing for DRTB is done early. So why early diagnosis of drug-resistant TB is important? As I mentioned earlier, it prolongs suffering and morbidity, enhances severity of disease, and can also amplify risk. Now, if the patient is not getting any relief, he is likely to interrupt treatment and seek alternate care. And while all this is going on, transmission to other continues. Now, most of these situations are avoidable if diagnosis is made early and appropriate treatment is first. And earlier, when we were using the solid culture and DST, it took almost 3 to 4 months to give results. And these labs required a heavy infrastructure and skilled workers. And so, a lot of funds and political commitment were required. And since TB is there in most of the low and middle income countries, this was really not available. And now, we have the new rapid molecular tests and the situation has changed. We have expert MTB-RIF or CBNAT, as you call it. The results are available in less than 2 hours. It's automated, no special infrastructure required, and diagnoses both TB and rifampicin resistant together. Now I take the case of India and tell you how India, from 2007 till now, has actually made rapid advancement in the delivery of MDR TB services. India, as you all know, is the highest TB and MDR TB burden country globally. And there are nearly 62,000 MDR cases occurring annually. The country initiated MDR TB services in 8 districts, approximately 20 million population in 2007, and by 2013 covered the entire country, 1.2 billion population living in 700 districts. Starting with 4 labs in 2007, in 2014 there are now 62 labs which provide culture and DST facilities. There are 50 sites with line probe assay and 89 expert MTB-RIF sites. To show you, how the progress has been made, let us look at 2007, where only 309 presumptive MDR TB cases were tested, out of which 109 were diagnosed. There were just 4 culture and DST labs at that time. In 2009, the number of labs doubled to 9, and in that year, just over 8,000 presumptive MDR cases were tested, out of which a couple of thousand were diagnosed with MDR TB. In 2011, there was still further expansion. The culture and DST labs increased to 36, and expert and LPA were introduced, and there were 18 sites. This also led to doubling of the number of MDR cases diagnosed. But then, after 2011, there's been a rapid expansion. As you can see, from 4,200 cases diagnosed, it's reached to more than 25,000 in 2014. And now, there are 50 LPA sites, 89 expert sites, and nearly 70 culture and DST labs. In 2014, and Mario mentioned this in a slide earlier, over 250,000 presumptive MDR-TB cases were subjected to DST tests. What is the plan ahead? India is planning to have universal DST for all TB cases by 2009, an ambitious plan which will be matched up by setting up 120 culture and DST labs, 950 expert sites for similar technology, providing over 1 million DSTs annually, and also providing testing for second-line drug resistance. India intends to treat at least 60,000 MDR-TB cases annually and improve treatment outcomes, which currently stand at only 50% to at least 65%. This will all lead to saving additional lives and cut down transmission drastically. So this flowchart actually shows you, how the progress has been. In 2007, the criteria for presumptive MDR-TB patients was only failure of retreatment cases. It was expanded to include all failures, patients suffering from HIV, and contacts of MDR-TB in 2011. In 2014, all pre-treatment cases were added, and by 2019, it is expected that all TB cases will be tested for drug resistance at the time of diagnosis, and simultaneously all MDR-TB cases will be tested for second-line drug resistance. This will not be easy, and there are several challenges. Primary being, that the rapid molecular tests, though available at a low cost now, are still not cheap. The cost of expert machines still remains about $20,000, and the cost of the test at $10 still remains high, which means you require additional funds, political commitment. While we are moving on for universal DST for first-line drugs, the diagnosis of resistance to second-line drugs in a country like India, where resistance to quinolones remains quite high, needs to be geared up. And this, presently, we do not have convenient tests like Expert, which are automated and give results rapidly. Mario mentioned, that it's not ethical if you just diagnose the cases and can't treat them. So matching the treatment capacity will be another challenge. And to ensure that patients who are put on treatment actually complete their treatment will require psychosocial economic support and also shorter drug regimens. And underpinning this whole thing will be prevention of MDR-TB, so that you treat drug-sensitive TB well and do not create more MDR-TB. Thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. I'm sorry, I've just turned the piece of paper over. Dr. Chadha. I'm going to turn my video back on for a second. That was really fascinating. Thank you very much for more detail on the some of the specifics around India and the ambitious plans for 2019. I'm just going to move straight on. And I'm going to ask Dr. Sachdeva, who's one of the authors of the study that we're focusing on today, to tell us a little bit more about, who's also one of the additional director of the Director General of India's National TB Program, to tell us a little bit more about the study and maybe I'm sure to build on the comments from Mario and Dr. Chadha already. So, Dr. Sachdeva, thank you very much.
I hope you can see my presentation on the screen.
We can indeed.
Yeah, you can see that. Okay. So I'll not go into much details about the burden of global burden or the country burden, but what I will say is India is one of the highest MDR-TB burden country in the world, and what we expect, at least 60,000 cases among those patients who are notified under the program. The current detection of these cases is around, last year we detected around 26,000 patients and put around 25,000 patients on treatment. So that's a sense about the extent of the problem in our country. So we know that we account for about 1/4 of the global TB incidence, And if you take India and China combined, we account for about 50% of the global MDR-TB burden. So this MDR-TB burden, what we talk about is currently among those who are notified in the program. And if we try and get a sense of how many patients may be outside the program, maybe another 50% of those estimated may be outside the program. So at least 30,000 patients may be who are in the community and yet not reporting to the program. The current policy of offering drug susceptibility testing to MDR-TB patient is based on their graded risk of getting an MDR-TB. And this graded risk is we offer them at the earliest when they are termed as sputum positive at month 2 of the follow-up. So this is what in India we call as criteria C. And if we test all patients who are within the current definition of MDR-TB, and even if we detect all of them, we will still be detecting only 2/3 of the TB patients which are estimated to occur in the country. Roughly 1/3 of these estimated 60,000 patients will still be missed if we keep using the current definition of suspect for MDR-TB. So unless we move to testing all new patients for DST, we can never reach that target of detecting 60,000 patients that are supposed to have been occurred in our country in the year 2014. So here is a technology, technology which can actually enable you to meet those targets, target all those new patients, because and it gives you results very fast. So what we did is we did a study wherein GeneXpert, or what we call in our country as cartridge-based nucleic acid amplification test by its generic name. We did a pilot study to see its impact on what we call, you describe it as an upfront testing for all TB suspects, including suspects of drug-resistant TB. So this pilot study was carried out in 18 decentralized expert labs, which were established at existing public sector designated microscopy centers. And each expert lab catered to a population of at least 0.5 million population. These 18 sites are shown on the country graph, and they covered all the geography of the country, including urban population, rural population, tribal population, hilly population, and covered a population base of 8.8 million population. These are some of the pictures of the few sites which were included in the study. The key question was to do an impact assessment of upfront expert testing on TB and MDR-TB detection. So in the study, there was a baseline phase as well as an intervention phase. In baseline phase, there was no active intervention. All the diagnosis of TB and MDR-TB was as per the program guidelines and the program diagnostic algorithm. In the baseline phase, data of around 11,000 presumptive pulmonary TB patients and about 232 presumptive resistant TB patients was captured. The 4 sites were excluded from the baseline phase, and they immediately proceeded to the intervention phase. In the intervention phase, there was an upfront testing for all drug-resistant TB suspects as well as for presumptive TB suspects. In the intervention, there was a same-day sputum transportation to the expert lab, and the treatment was based on expert test results. So overall, about 100,000 patients were tested for both pulmonary TB as well as DR-TB, and of these 100,000, about 2,500 were suspects for MDR-TB. Now, as you see, as a backup, the sphere microscopy was done on all these presumptive MDR-TB suspects, and this is the data month to month from March 2012 till December 2013. The number of TB patients which are detected positive on sputum sphere microscopy. So the same patients were, the same samples were also subjected to GeneXpert, And here you can see the incremental case detection with GeneXpert, wherein you can see the additional contribution by GeneXpert in TB patients, and the line, the blue line below shows what we got as rifampicin resistance through this testing of upfront testing of GeneXpert. So had we not done this upfront testing, we would have missed what is shown in the bottom line. These are all MDR TB patients which were detected because an upfront GeneXpert was offered to all presumptive TB patients. Now, if you see how much was the TB case detection in the baseline phase versus the intervention phase, in the baseline phase, out of 10,000 odd patients which were subjected to GeneXpert microscopy, we got about 1,500 patients, that is a positivity of around 14%. In the intervention phase, when we subjected 70,000 odd suspects to GeneXpert, there were about 14,500 positive, and which translates into more than 20% positivity. So you see there is an incremental gain of around 6 to 7% or more than 50% of earlier what is detected on GeneXpert. Let's see the impact of overall. There was an 11% increase in detection of all forms of pulmonary TB and 33% increase in bacteriologically positive TB cases. Now, let's look at the pediatric population. Within the pediatric population also, out of the 4,600 odd suspect tested, expert diagnosed roughly more than twice the number as smear could have diagnosed. While there were 222 positive on smear microscopy, expert diagnosed 477 patients. And of these 477 patients, there was about 79 patients were also additionally RIF resistant. So this is a bonus which comes from the upfront testing with GeneXpert. So in addition to the about 477 patients of TB, we also could detect 79 patients of MDR TB with upfront testing, even in the pediatric population. Similarly, among HIV positive population, the expert positivity is 27% vis-a-vis 13% positivity on smear microscopy. So detection almost doubles with the upfront expert testing. Even the detection of rifampicin resistant TB or the MDR TB. So even in HIV positive, out of total 770 positive TB patients, we could detect additional 73 patients as MDR TB. So that's again an incremental gain which was possible by upfront GeneXpert testing. Now this table shows you that of the total 20,000 odd patients detected on expert as pulmonary TB, 2,300 of them also had an additional rifampicin resistance, which translates into about 11.2%. On a segregated basis, if you see what I have highlighted is there are even in new patients, those who are expert positive and smear negative is about 367 patients. These would have ordinarily been missed because they would never have been, could have been suspected as having drug-resistant TB. But because expert was made available to them upfront, we could detect an additional 367 cases, which is about a 7% yield in all those smear negative cases tested. Similarly, previously treated patients, additional 481 patients could be detected among smear negative previously treated patients. Again, a positivity of around 20% in those cases. So that's the what upfront GeneXpert testing has shown in the additional gain in the detection of rifampicin resistant TB. So in summary, this was a large-scale demonstration at all public health facilities. 99% patients got valid test results on expert MTB. With upfront expert testing, there was a 33% increase in overall case detection for bacteriologically confirmed TB cases. More than twofold increase in detection in people living with HIV/AIDS and in the pediatric population. More than fivefold increase in the rifampicin-resistant TB cases with this upfront testing. Cost effectiveness is another aspect which we are at the analysis stage at this point of time. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. I acknowledge our various partners who supported us in this initial feasibility assessment with expert test. So clearly there is an additional gain of at least 50% presumptive TB patients, 50% additional TB patients, and more than 5-fold increase in the detection of MDR TB patients. I thank you for your attention and ready to take answer any queries or questions which you may have.
Many thanks, Dr. Sachdeva. I think we are going to go into question and answer now. I mean, I think that the take-home message from a combination of all of these presentations has been the kind of the additional gain being very clear in the use of this kind of diagnostic test. But I think where most of the questions may arise is around the implications of this for planning and programs going forward. Now we've received some questions already, and I can read through a few of those. Or how would you like to do that, Bobby? Would you like to read through those questions, or should I?
Yes, hi Tim.
So,
perhaps you can go ahead, and we have few hands also. So maybe, yeah.
Sorry, Bobby. Could you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, you can go ahead with the questions, and then we have some
Okay.
hands raised also. So maybe then we can take up the hands too. Thanks.
Okay. Well, let me ask a couple of questions. I'll read a few of them, and then maybe we can answer them together. We have a mixture of questions, some very basic ones and some more sophisticated questions. So one which comes from a Nepalese journalist, Chatra Karki, which is on the basis of the findings of the recent study, what challenges do we see in implementing the lessons learned, not just in India, but also countries such as Nepal? That was one question. We have one question from Menaka Rao in India, who's asking whether there is any gender-specific data and whether the detection of drug-resistant TB shows any differences between men and women. That was the second question. And a third one, let me just, I'm trying to look through. Bear with me a second. There's a question from Swaziland, or several questions from Swaziland, from Alice Sagwidza Tembe, who is a correspondent in Swaziland, and I'm just trying to choose one of those questions, and it's about cost, which says, what are we doing to ensure that diagnostics remain affordable at the country level? So maybe we could just start with those three questions, and then we'll come back to Bobby and some of the hands that have been raised by other callers. So I'm not sure if anybody would like to take any or all of those questions, but over to the panelists. Thank you.
So maybe I'll start first. The basic lessons learned from this study is, one, it's feasible to implement GeneXpert in peripheral healthcare settings. It requires minimal training of the personnel who actually test for TB using the GeneXpert machine and the cartridges. There were a few issues related to our climate, specifically in our country, wherein initially there was a lot of module failures on GeneXpert, presumably due to dust. Earlier, the installation of these machines also proved challenging in the sense we had to ensure an air conditioner in all the setups. All the setups have to be fully leak-proof. No air should seep in, no dust should seep in from any source. And fixing of the problems early in the project took some time, but as we moved on, we learned to fix many of the problems locally. The technicians were trained to handle a few of these problems locally, and at the end of the project, the country felt confident that this can be rolled out on a scale, and that's what the step the country has already taken. We are in the process of currently procuring 300 additional expert machines which will be deployed throughout the country in a decentralized manner for use in population who are suspects of drug-resistant TB. Also, we are prioritizing GeneXpert now for all pediatric TB patients, all HIV positive patients, and all socially and clinically at risk group of patients. So that's the initial lessons learned, but we'll be happy to take any specific questions. Gender specific data, we are doing a separate analysis, maybe in some other time, say month or two from now, we'll be able to throw more light on that. Having said that, the detection rates are similar among both men and women. The other variables of gender, we are at this stage where we are at the analysis stage, and we'll get back sometime later on this. Maybe other panelists can respond, and then we can carry on the discussion.
Okay. In particular, do the other panelists have any comments on the issue of maintaining affordability in, I imagine, in low and middle income countries in particular? And welcome Dr. Karen Beyer, who I see has taken Mario's hot seat in Geneva. Thank you very much, Karen.
Good afternoon, Tim. And maybe to just share experiences that countries have had in ensuring sustainability. The first is to make sure that the budgets for lab diagnosis in national strategic plans are, first of all, included, and secondly, adequately planned. We see still, for example, in Global Fund applications, that there's really under budgeting of the diagnostics component. And to take into account that by deploying a technology such as the Expert is a third of the cost of having to deploy the sophisticated laboratory infrastructure that we had before. And secondly, I think the types of analyses that India is also planning in terms of cost effectiveness is very important also to do locally. And these can be quite simple, not necessarily complicated studies, but it is very useful to have the data at country level and also to convince the politicians and finance ministers of the cost effectiveness of such a new intervention.
Thank you very much, Karen. We have an interesting question from the journalist Patralekha Chatterjee in India, who's asking about the collaboration between India, China, and Russia. They said that we'd referred to the burden of MDR-TB in those three countries, and asked whether there was any specific collaboration between those three countries to deal with any common problems. I don't know if anybody could respond to that.
So there is already a BRICS platform. It also includes Brazil in addition, India, China, Russia, and Brazil. 2 rounds of deliberations or consultations have gone between the BRICS countries. The last meeting was in Brazil in, I think, December 2014. And what all the countries have agreed to identify areas of mutual cooperation, share knowledge and exchange. And they are also in the process of having an understanding among various countries to do so. I think the subsequent meeting this year is planned in Russia. The forum is evolving, and we see potential of all these BRICS countries getting engaged in addressing MDR-TB in particular, because MDR-TB in BRICS countries almost about 3/5 of the global MDR TB burden.
Right. Thank you very much, Bobby. I don't know. We're just about coming up onto the hour, but I wonder if there are any additional hands that have been raised that people would like to ask questions directly. Are you hearing me? In that case, maybe I'll just ask one more question myself. Yeah, there's one question from Pakistan which was really asking about the second-line treatments and asking, this is from Zishan Ahmed in Pakistan, and asking about the whether people who are identified as resistant to rifampicin by GeneXpert, whether they're put onto standard drug regimes or are they do they wait for further DST results and maybe have tailored regimes after further results? Would any of the panelists like to comment on that? This is on the consistency, if you like, of drug regimes, second-line drug regimes after GeneXpert diagnosis.
So this question, actually, the answer will vary from country to country. In India, currently, what we call a standard actually has a menu of options. Within those standards, there is a menu of options. So while we call there is a standardized treatment available for MDR-TB, it's a 6-drug combination. And in intensive phase, 4 drugs are continued, injectables are discontinued. Having said that, the country has also now started testing all MDR-TB patients for XDR-TB at baseline. So when we do a second-line drug susceptibility testing at baseline, so all those who are resistant to aminoglycosides are offered 1 line of treatment. So that's the another standardization within the standard. So there is a second regimen which is available for patients who are resistant to aminoglycosides plus MDR-TB. Then there is a regimen which is available for patients who are resistant to quinolones, plus they have resistance to INH and rifampicin. And there is a specific regimen for XDR-TB. So what we call as standard regimens are actually 4 regimens, and they cater to extended DST to fluoroquinolones and aminoglycoside. Having said that, there is also a provision for switching drugs should there be an hypersensitivity reaction to any drugs. So there is a guidance how can you switch drug if there is an hypersensitivity reaction or anything else. So it's truly not a standardized drug regimen and truly also not a individualized based regimen, but there are a good menu options which can be implemented on a public health basis. So at least 4 regimens for drug-resistant TB are on ground or India. I would not like to comment about other countries. Maybe somebody else can respond, or Karen can respond on that.
Just a short response. The WHO recommendation is that patients who are detected with rifampicin resistance have to go onto MDR regimens. They cannot be put again on the first-line regimens. And from what Dr. Deba has just said, it's best at this point to identify the different groups of patients that would require changes in their MDR regimen, depending on what we know about the resistance patterns to the second-line drugs. And then we should not forget that we have 2 new drugs for MDR-TB patients that should over time also become part of the options to treat the patients detected with rifampicin and MDR-TB.
Okay.
So just a point of clarification there, Dr. Garrett. So all patients who are detected with the rifampicin resistance are put on MDR-TB treatment. Simultaneously, their DST is also set up for quinolones and aminoglycosides. Should they show resistance to either one of them or both of them, then they are switched to appropriate regimen as per their latest available DST.
That's exactly in line with WHO recommendations.
Yeah, yes.
I think Dr. Chadha also had a comment.